Welcome back to New Realities. This is another show I'm doing in order to make people aware of this upcoming conference, this Portal to Ascension conference, which is happening October 1st to the 5th. There is a poster there with some of the best speakers in the field of UFO, human potential, conscious evolution, and ascension, produced by Neil Gar at Portal to Ascension. He's the one who's giving away this free conference. So all you have to do is sign up at ascensionconference.com or go to portal2ascension.org. And today I'm talking to one of the keynote speakers, one of my favorite people in the consciousness ET field. This is Rebecca Hardcastle. How are you, Rebecca, today?
I'm fine, Alan. Good to see you, friend.
Good to see you, and I'm glad we finally got a chance. I mean, I think we did an interview a while back, but now you've written a new book about exo-consciousness, and like I said, you coined the term exo-consciousness. So since you coined it, why don't you define it?
Okay. Currently, exo-consciousness means the innate human ability to connect, communicate, and co-create with extraterrestrials and multidimensionals.
Okay. The innate, so we have a little bit, we are exo-consciousness as well if we're going to communicate with exo-consciousness, right?
Right.
So does that mean, from what you're saying, that we have a facility, I mean, like we haven't tapped into, and that we need to learn, because ETs, multidimensionals, they're all around us. I mean, they're everywhere, but we have yet to, what I talk about in New Realities is cognize the new realities, right? So how do we learn to communicate exo-consciously?
Well, as my new book talks about, we can also define it as psychic intelligence. So how do we refine and advance our psychic abilities and our psychic intelligence? And I would take it, and myself, and I always speak for our Institute for Exo-Consciousness, that we not only cognize these psychic abilities, so we cognize these ET and multidimensionals around us, but we take it the next step and we say that we literally co-create with them. So we participate and co-create with them to build something that we call an exo-conscious civilization.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So let me see if I get what you're saying, because it's not like they're just waiting for us to show up. They are wanting us to be partners in this building, this new world, this new reality. So would you say what we're going through now with the virus, the lockdown, the quarantine is, I mean, it seems to me a part of the cleansing, so we can start to build something new? How would you interpret it?
I see it as a cleansing, but I also see it as making things visible that before were not visible to us. And that's why I've written a book about how to navigate being a psychically intelligent person in a transhuman world. I actually think, Alan, that what we're moving into right now is sort of Reformation 2.0. Like when the Reformation happened, all of a sudden it was like, wow, you know, people could communicate with God. You know, they don't need to have.
What do you mean by, you mean the Lutheran Reformation?
Yeah, the Lutheran Reformation, for example. I mean, that was a huge uplift to humanity when we all of a sudden realized that we didn't need dogma and doctrine and priests and all these rituals in order to be one with God, that we had this ability within ourselves. So there's oneness. And then I think what we're seeing now today is this literally sort of capsizing of like the boat we were in capsized and turned over with COVID and with transhumanism. And all of a sudden now we're finding, how are we going to float and navigate this topsy-turvy world? And I think that inevitably leads us into psychic intelligence, which goes into the idea of co-creation, that now we not only have to recognize God or recognize a divine source, recognize that we're in this field of consciousness, whatever you call it, but that we can actually do something with it.
Right. No, I totally agree with everything you're saying, because it's what I feel I teach when I do a remote viewing course. So when I teach people how to remote view, I'm asking them to use a different part of their awareness. And I'm going to be doing something for Portal to Ascension on November 22nd. That will be on the website.
I love that.
It's like, so I'm just trying to, because whenever there's a new word, it takes people working with it to find a socially defined meaning, right? So you can create the word exo-consciousness, which I think is great, but now we're trying to fit it into the reality of a social context, right? So
right. It's interesting because for a long time, I used to think that, well, the importance of exo-consciousness is that we get into the nomenclature or the linguistics of the time. And while that's important, I began to see exactly what you're saying, that you really seed a word into consciousness. Consciousness is movement. Consciousness is not paralysis. So the more you can move an idea into an activity, or whether it be an art or a new science or a new technology, that's what the Institute is doing. So our two missions are that we're going to seed extraterrestrial entrepreneurs. So that's literally people who are long-term, in most cases, long-term ongoing contactees, but they're conscious of their contact. So it's not this, oh, I think something happened, I don't know what it was.
Well, that's the beginning. That's the
beginning. Yeah. Right. And so everybody has a beginning, and certainly we've all had beginnings, but we're saying for our institute, we're that next step. We're saying that we're post-disclosure in a sense.
No,
like
that's
we are
correct.
Conscious of who we are, what our relationship with extraterrestrials and multidimensionals are. And now we're choosing of our free peer-to-peer relationship with them that we freely choose to create a new infrastructure, literally, which is literally an infrastructure is a civilization.
Right. No, I'm finally understanding what you mean. I mean, I've heard you talk and been around you. I just interviewed Geraldine Orozco. She's very much, do you know her work? Oh, she's very much conscious of her ET connections, and is teaching from that place of evolutionary consciousness, of a place of a sort of what you would call exo awareness. So you have this Exo Conscious Institute. Talk about that. Talk about that.
So the Institute for Exo-Consciousness, our nickname is iExo, so you can find our website at i-exo.com. We are a nonprofit. We're an international nonprofit. Around 2016, Alan, I was in Washington, D.C. when I was working with Dr. Mitchell, and that whole contract was coming to an end. And I just thought, what's my next step going to be? Where am I? What am I to do next? And I really came back to my roots in exo-consciousness, because I had written about that in 2008 and coined the word around 2005. And I just reached out to all my friends across the world that were long-term experiencers. And I said, let's have a mastermind every month and get together and talk about what we can do. And from that then grew the formal nonprofit of the Institute. So our two missions are, number one, that we are seeding exo-conscious entrepreneurs. We're going to have incubators in certain sectors. We're going to offer support and ways that they can literally mainstream or bring out to the mainstream,
right,
their inventions or their creations, their innovations or their ideas. So it could be someone comes up with a new philosophy. philosophy is an innovation. It's a new idea. So from sort of products and inventions to ideas and philosophies, all
Or
of
art.
these.
What about art?
Totally art, education, healing. Many of us are healers. Many new healing protocols are going to be coming forth. And our second mission then is that we are going to be seeding the training for this. So it's not just that, for example, you start as an exo-conscious entrepreneur, you start creating this new art form, for example, and you're sharing it with the world, but you're also through the Institute training other people of these modalities that you're using. Right. And how you relate to the extraterrestrials.
This is so good and so important, and in a way, the next step of what we've been waiting for. And I'd help you put on a conference, an Exo-Consciousness conference, if you want to do that.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Put the word out there and break it down in all these different ways, art and music and teachings and
healing. Healing, I think, is going to be, I think, especially with transhumanism and in my book, Exo-Conscious Humans, what I do in the book, Alan, is I break it down between the first chapter is the first section of a chapter is exo-conscious human approach. The second section is a transhuman approach. And then the third section is, do we have a common ground that we can stand on?
So define I think I know what exo-human, this exo-conscious, but what's transhuman?
A transhuman would be a person who believes in the philosophy that there is a technological extension that will create an advanced human. So we need to have synthetic biology put into our body, say with a vaccine, or we need to have a neural net placed in our brain, or we need to have, instead of an arm, we need to have a technological prosthesis, or we need to have these new synthetic drugs in order.
Are you saying this is what we don't need? You're saying we do not.
Well, this is what's here. Right. This is what's here.
But we don't
need
that.
This is transhumanism.
But we do have the ability to override that and tap into the higher functions, if we can, of the brain that will take the place of all that synthetic.
Well, we actually believe in the Institute, and in my writings, I speak a lot about it, that natural human consciousness just isn't just the brain. So for a transhuman, like a Kurzweil singularity, there would be a belief that the brain is everything. So everything is in the head. Right. And for an exo-conscious human, everything is in my body. So my body is a whole network, as you know, of chakras and meridians, and my psychic intelligence could be in my gut. It could be in my left foot. It could be anywhere in my body, but my body needs to function naturally in life in order for me to heighten my psychic intelligence. So my psychic abilities need my body. And one of the things that we're most concerned about, and I am most concerned about in my writing, is that I pose two questions in my book. I think they're foundational, pivotal questions. Number one, are psychic abilities possible in a transhuman culture?
Well, why wouldn't that? Wait, so you're saying, wait, let me just absorb the idea of transhuman. You're saying transhuman is a synthetic overlay on top of the human, and you're saying
within the human. Within the human, and within all of the human's environment. So it's like clouds with the World Economic Forum. This is an all-encompassing. It's in the cells of our body. It's changing our DNA. It's in our houses. It's in our family members. It's in our atmosphere. It's in nature.
You're saying that's okay, though. You're saying
no. I'm not saying that's okay.
Okay.
I'm asking whether or not natural psychic ability, so my ability as a human to go out into the field of consciousness, a la, Deepak Chopra,
Right.
Eastern mysticism, Western mystics. So my ability in consciousness as an exo-conscious human, I have to go out to the field of consciousness to connect with ETs and multidimensionals.
Right.
When my body is overlaid with transhumanism and the components of transhumanism, is that then possible?
Oh, I see. You're not saying it's not possible. I would think it's harder because we don't want to be, this is just my opinion, connected to a false technology, because I think the greatest technology is the biology. And a lot of the biology we have yet to even discover, because we don't even realize the superhuman qualities we have. This is what Joe Dispenza is talking about. This is what Carolyn Corey's latest movie is talking about. So I'm not interested in Kurzweil's transhumanism because it creates a false god, if you want to talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. It creates a false god. But what I realized, especially in living in Washington, D.C., what I came to see was that there were these tentacles moving through it's kind of the space Earth infrastructure that's been put up with satellites, with the whole advancement of synthetic biology. And certainly COVID is allowing us to see this full on. And, whether or not, I feel like transhumanism wants to replace human consciousness.
Right. I think I don't like to be paranoid, but I think that is a takeover, a way to make us more enslaved, just as we're becoming more free and understanding.
I don't know if it's going to enslave us, but I definitely think that it's going to limit us. Well, and the question is, are we going to, so if it's, I feel like it actually took me 3 years to write this book. I know when I lived in DC, one of my daughters said to me, she's like, well, just write the book. And I'm like, I can't write the book about exo-conscious humans claiming their psychic intelligence in a transhuman world, because matter of fact, I'm afraid of it. I was afraid of transhumanism. And the deeper I dug into my research, the more afraid I got. And so picked myself up. I moved here to Phoenix. And I didn't let it go. But what I did was I came to peace with it. That this is an aspect of life that humans like to become machines. We like to sort of mimic machines. And all this propaganda I'd heard for years that like out of the Silicon Valley, we're trying to create computers to be like humans. And the reality was, I found in my research that it was actually the opposite, that they were designing humans to be like machines.
Well, that's a whole different thing. But, we have always had tools to extend the possibility of human potential. And it's starting with fire, with
this isn't new. Yeah, this isn't new. This is actually old alchemy.
Right. And I think it's old relationships to technologies. And Marshall McLuhan says that technologies are an extension of the human being, but we don't want it to take over the human being. And I think if we had artificial intelligence opening doors instead of a doorman, or even maybe driverless cars, I don't know about that. I'm still a little old-fashioned that way. But if we had some of the improvements where people wouldn't have to be enslaved to awful situations, then I think this could improve our lives. But if it takes
that's why I look at it as a common ground. It's not going to go away. Technology is not going to go away. This is certainly not the first time that humans have dealt with this. I think probably Atlantis and different ancient civilizations, they were dealing with a lot of transhumanism. I think that was an issue for them probably. And I think there are many of us that came back and are looking at this now with new eyes and saying, but sometimes, Alan, the way the world works is we as humans need to be confronted with something to realize how precious something within us is. And I think transhumanism is going to be a gift in that sense, because we're going to see that it's not a replacement for natural human consciousness. And we as humans need to respect and acknowledge and use our natural human consciousness to an even greater level now that we've realized this.
Absolutely. That's why I was with you when in the beginning of the program, you talked about expanding who we are and this ET exo potential that I think we're really getting ready to access, and many people have. And I think transhumanism is a bit of a sidetrack in a sense. I mean, I know what you're saying. We have to acknowledge it exists. But when we, like Buckminster Fuller said, when you find something to replace the old, it makes the old obsolete. So as we develop the potential for exo-consciousness, the idea of transhuman will drop away. That's what I'm sensing from what you're saying. And there's so much more potential as we make contact with these beings that are in a way extending their arm down to us to lift us up. I mean, it's what I get.
I would say that for our institute and what I write about in terms of exo-conscious humans, we really see it as a peer-to-peer kind of collaboration, that they're reaching to us, we're reaching to them, that we have an extraterrestrial consciousness, and we need to learn how to use it. And it will only benefit Earth as we do learn how to use it.
So let's talk about that. We definitely are connected to something beyond the conditioning of the human drama. So, and we are part of a greater galactic consciousness. So how do we learn to use that? How do we start to access those realms and realize we're part of something bigger?
Well, I'm a therapist. Yeah. So I would say number one is to learn how to integrate and be at ease and accepting of the fact of that this aspect of you, this psychic intelligence, these extraterrestrial contacts that you've had. And that's why the Institute is so important, because it's made up of individuals who have had long-term contact and have gotten far beyond all the trauma and the stories and the scariness, and have moved themselves, sometimes alone through this process, sometimes with help, where they have actually integrated it, and they're at peace with it. And being at peace with it, they allow that within them then to flourish. But integration takes time. Integration takes patience. Integration takes a long continuum of trust, building of trust. So it's not like I'm going to go out and have my first extraterrestrial encounter. That may or may not turn out well for you, and you may or may not instantly integrate that. But I feel like the Institute is here for people that want to integrate it and but not only integrate it, they want to use it. They want to apply it. That's the one thing I learned with working with Dr. Edgar Mitchell. And that really is where a lot of my work with him seeded the Institute, because when I worked with him, when we were working on 0-point energy, we were doing 0-point energy, consciousness, and the extraterrestrial presence. So we were bringing those three pieces together, that you're not going to have 0-point energy unless you understand consciousness, and you're not going to understand consciousness unless you understand the extraterrestrial presence. That the three of these kind of wove together.
Repeat that again. You're not going to say those three parts again.
So you're not going to understand 0-point energy without consciousness and understanding of consciousness. And you're not going to understand consciousness without an understanding of the extraterrestrial or multidimensional presence.
Okay.
So it's like a trinity. it's in any kind of a trinity, there's this overlapping, three principles that are separate, but there's a oneness to them within that.
Right. I get that. No, that's very intelligent. And, the movie Thrive 2 just came out, and you know about that. They go deep into the free energy paradigm, because you're right. Because if we look at it in terms of the enslavement, to be exaggerate the fact that we have to pay for energy, which is all around us, and imagine a world where you just plug into a little box on your window and you power your house. Think of the freedom that would bring, not just individually, but to irrigate the deserts, to move water from place to, so much would be possible once we have a free energy society that will start to change how we think, and that will start to change the consciousness. And then we'll start to open up more to this exo awareness. I think I'll call it exo awareness. No, exo.
Sure, whatever. Talk what I go into.
But anyway,
but so when I worked with Edgar, what I began to see was we were kind of stumbling onto these individuals that were on the fringe. They didn't belong to National Institute of Society, and they didn't belong to National Institute of Health or any physicist organizations. They were kind of loners, and they were almost always experiencers, and they were the ones that were bringing forth these theories and these formulas and this science that would make this free energy possible. And I spent 6 years in this, and then when Dr. Mitchell passed away, I just thought, what am I going to do with this? And I just knew that these inventors really embodied exo-consciousness. Like they were taking it, they were showing my path to this next step. And I needed to see that, and I needed to help others see that and see that within themselves. And so that's really what seeded the Institute, was seeing these inventors and what was possible. But I want to go back to what you said about free energy, because the other piece that I learned through transhumanism is that we used to create these letters for Quantrek, for 0 point energy, and we would write exactly what you had said, that this is going to be this free energy. We're going to light up Africa. There's not going to be any more poverty, and just these glowing things. You're probably familiar with my foray into John Podesta at the White House. We were setting up a meeting with Barack Obama.
Oh, that was major. That was a major almost possibility.
Almost happening. But then when I started getting into transhumanism, I started to see that, we do have forays now into 0 point energy, the different kinds of fusion technology and that sort of thing. So we have these forays into 0 point energy, but we also have created, in the meantime, this incredible technocratic system that is Edison on steroids.
Well,
and it's actually metering, monetizing all of the energy in ways that Edison and the people behind him never dreamed of.
Right.
Through these technocratic organizations. And
well,
so
through these oil companies, just the corporate greed is what controls our economy and politics.
Oh yeah, and they're all into these technocratic organizations to meter, monitor, and that's part of the issue of synthetic biology. In synthetic biology, you are a resource, you are an item on the blockchain, and you are, to some extent, with this, depending on the synthetic biology that's put into your body and you accept, you almost become like an antenna for all of this. So you're part of, like, you're almost all of a sudden, you're part of the oil
Right. So
system.
how do
You're
we,
part of the 0-point energy system.
right, so what do we, how do we, what's the solution? I think 0-point energy is the solution, but what are you saying we do about it?
I'm
What,
saying what we do about it is we wake up to the reality of what technocracy is.
right.
We wake up to the reality of what groups like the World Economic Forum have put together. I mean, they're not making a secret of what they're going to do.
Right.
I mean, they're saying we're going to have an all-encompassing system. There's no secret there.
But
I'll give you an example.
No, free energy is here. I mean, were you involved with
Yeah.
the Thrive movie, the Thrive 2 movie?
No, I don't know them.
I think they're highlighting the fact that it's here
Uh-huh.
and it's dangerous because it's war against free energy. I mean, if you have a way of, you know, just demobilizing the oil companies, that's
But the oil companies are all involved in it. It's not demobilizing the oil companies one
okay.
bit.
Are
They're
they
all
involved
invested
in
in it.
energy? Are they?
Oh,
Okay.
for goodness sakes, yes.
Okay, I don't know
Yeah.
that.
They're
Okay.
putting together these huge technocratic companies.
So what's the solution then? What do we do here to get this?
Well, I think the solution is, as always, it's humans are going to have to mature and grow up and take responsibility for the kind of life that they want. I mean, personally, when I look at life, I have a lot of kids, grandkids. I mean, I care about what I'm going to leave Earth. Some people don't. I get that. They're here, they're gone. But I care about it. And I think that, you know, for as much as New Age has kind of made it sound like this is all going to be a bed of roses, it's not. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. We are going to come up against things that we didn't even know existed.
Yes.
And we're going to have to be not only intelligent and take time and read and think about what's happening and use our critical thinking abilities. You know, we're going to have to put our psychic intelligence in boot camp. This is a boot camp situation. This is not going to be easy because technocracy and transhumanism have been given to us in a way that it's like a kitten lapping up milk. It's like and this just didn't start in the 70s. I mean, this started back, you know, in World War I. All this psychological research with shell shock victims. What happens when you're shell shocked? What happens when you're in trauma? And they've literally pieced together all these pieces. And I go into it in my book. You know, these are the psychological pieces that they're going to be working with you.
Well, don't you think if we have the exo-consciousness, if we, you know, take lead from your institute, the exo-consciousness and we develop this greater awareness, it also comes with this sense of unity, the sense that we're all connected. Won't that solve a lot of these issues of separation? And
well, they will, but synthetic biology and transhumanism can respond to you and say, if you give us the opportunity to put synthetic to literally change the human genome with synthetic biology, which they're quite capable of doing, that then we don't have to wait for everybody to advance. We'll just, with our synthetic biology, advance everybody together at once.
I don't really trust that. I mean,
well, of course of course, none of us trust that. But I'm just saying that we can't really hold out oneness as our solution, because in fact, their oneness solution is better than ours.
No, we have to do the work. We really
have to do the work. Yeah.
What you're saying, exercise exo-consciousness, psychic awareness, development, greater human potential in order to uplift everyone else. And it takes work. It's not like,
and it also, it's that it maintains what I think is an absolute linchpin of humans. What psychic intelligence and exo-consciousness does is it maintains the human as a respected species, as a respected being that's growing and learning and developing and advancing in an organic way. But it balances that with the fact that we all have to work together in order to move this forward. What synthetic biology does is said, have I got an implant for you?
Right.
And I'm going to give you equality like you've never imagined. I'm going to give you a community like you've never had. And
so not to like use a negative, but we're fighting on two fronts. We're fighting synthetic biology and we're fighting technocracy.
Well, I don't think we're fighting it. Actually, I think what we're doing kind of in a Rudolf Steiner kind of way is because, you know, Rudolf Steiner talked a lot about Armon and these whole, you know, I don't know if you're familiar, talked about this transhumanism, that this time that actually we're living in right now, that we would be confronting transhumanism. But I think what we're doing is we're literally navigating through it. It's not going to capture us. It's not going to color us. It might scare us some, but we're going to navigate through this. It's almost like it's like a lock on a canal. Like we have to sort of like raise up to get through the lock on the canal to move forward. I think that's more where we are. But I also think, Alan, to be fair, I think there are some people, some souls here on Earth that probably want to be transhuman.
That's because my feeling is because they're not aware of the higher consciousness and the spiritual possibilities that come when you open up to what you're calling exo-consciousness. So they only know it from a disconnected point. And
that whole disconnect is the issue. I mean, one of the reasons why transhumanism and this technocracy is so successful is because technology knows how to dissociate us better than we know how to dissociate ourselves. And they do it to us all the time. And we have to wake up to that.
No, we really need your institute to be out there in a big, big way to teach. No, I feel that because I think you're one of the few people that I've talked to, and I talk to a lot of people in this, who have a solution. It's not like, oh yeah, you'll wake up or that person will wake up. No, let's create a platform or a vehicle where people can come to wake up and make it a kind of viable, what do I say? Like schooling, university.
Like a training.
A training, yes, yes, yes. Are you going to set this up in Phoenix where you are?
It's already set up.
But as far as a place to go, and
I think we'll be virtual. I think we'll be international. We've got a big presence in Brazil and some different places around the world. And I think we'll be.
Tell me what's already set up though now, as far as like what's.
So right now we just have a very rudimentary website. We're actually, if anybody's out there listening and is excited, we need somebody to help us with a website. We're ready to move our website to another level. We're starting some immersion courses.
What does that mean?
Immersion courses are just immersing people in the information.
I see.
But there'll also be a training. We're also going to be offering training, and we're also going to be putting together an incubator. So a person can come to so let's just give some stages. So a person can come to the Institute and they could say, I think I've had some I'm conscious that I've had some contact. I've had some ongoing extraterrestrial multidimensional contact. I'm working on my psychic abilities. And I'm also feel drawn to become, to be doing a new invention with maybe a new kind of metal, for example, coming up with a new alloy of a new metal. Right. And so they would like move through the Institute. And then at some point, they could become a member of our incubator. Mm-hmm. And then our incubator would be similar to what goes on in Silicon Valley, where we bring in a group of experts that helps them move their alloy invention into the mainstream.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And more free energy
Sure.
and
All of a more free healing. I mean,
yes.
when synthetic biology comes, and when you couple that with weather warfare, when you couple that with chemtrails, you couple that with HARP and what, CERN is going to be 5 times more powerful. When you couple that with all of these satellites that are covering every square inch of the world with 5G, in order for the human as a human body to survive, we're going to need pioneers that bring forth that next generation of healing. So say you went and you got the COVID vaccine and now you're realizing that that's synthetic biology.
Yes.
And you don't want that RFID code in you anymore. And you don't want that optogenetics in you anymore. And I talk about all these things in my book. Like, how are we going to help people release that from their bodies?
Yeah. We need to know how to do that. Well,
And we need to keep each other healthy. It's not about, the whole phase that we went through of just, be conscious of something and it manifests. Yeah, I think that does work at a level, but there's another level where we're moving into some serious waters at this time. And to navigate, as I said, I'm not in a fight, I'm in a navigation.
yeah, no, that's a much more intelligent
Yeah.
way.
And in this navigation, I'm going to need my colleagues who are exo-conscious humans to help me navigate this physically and mentally and emotionally and spiritually.
I would like to be a part of that. Let's
Yeah.
I'm going to be out there in Sedona in about a week. So
Okay.
you go up to Sedona at all?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to be out there with the Hertox, JJ, and
Okay.
well, maybe we can have a meeting
That'd be
and
great.
maybe
Yeah.
we can
That'd
even
be great.
continue this broadcast with them. I mean, talk because they're very
Mhm.
much into promoting similar
Yeah.
levels. But I'd be interested in sitting down with you and seeing, okay, how can we put together a conference, maybe
Mhm.
an online conference, or
Mhm.
maybe when everything clears up, an in-person conference, and
Mhm.
maybe just to start as a think tank to see, okay, you've laid all this stuff out really beautifully. How do we then start to put this out into the community? How do we start to, go out, not like missionaries, but almost like that, where we can start to talk about
Share.
what's
Mhm.
possible? Yeah,
Yeah.
sharing, but in a
We're not
way.
converting anybody, we're sharing.
Right. No, we can't, you really can't convert anyone until they've had that awakening. But once they've had it, there's a lot of people isolated and they don't even know there is a community that is global, that's part of what we've been talking about for a long time.
There's
That
so much, yeah, and there's just so much. As a therapist, I just see there's so much health in being creative and inventing things in a community. It just makes you feel healthy. It makes you feel accountable, responsible. You feel like you're contributing. And I really believe that exo-conscious humans will, by doing these, by coming together, by bringing forth these inventions and creations, whether it's art or education or a technology or a science or a medicine, that they will really grasp a higher health. And but it's kind of like an old fashioned health. It's like kind of how a farmer used to feel. You got up every day and you worked with your cattle and you made your farm better, and or a mother in a home with their or father with their children. I mean, this is a very important part of of humanity that we need to go to work. We're
no,
doers.
yeah, no, this is great, Rebecca. I'm really glad you've developed these ideas and this platform to a degree where people now can come in and see how they want to fill it out to the
Mhm.
world, how they want to take it to the next level. And we are ripe for this. So many people are
I think so.
talking about it, right?
Mhm.
So,
And the incubator, I mean, can you imagine how exciting it will be when people come through our incubator and have brought their products to the world, and it goes out to say, it goes out to the space program, or it goes out to the Space Force, this new alloy that this person's invented. I mean, I read a really short book, and part of this is also my work with Edgar, but I wrote a really short book called How Exo-Conscious Humans Guide Our Spacefaring Future.
Oh, I like that. Wow.
And I really believe that you know, if the only right now the Space Force is going to be all AI.
Okay. You mean
the
Trump Pence Space Force? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. So that Space Force, not the secret Space Force. It's probably, I don't know what it is.
No.
So, but the sixth arm of the military, the Space Force, I don't think it's Trump and Pence's. I think it belongs to the Pentagon and the government.
Yeah,
but,
sure. Yes.
Yeah. That Space Force is being designed as AI top bottom. AI. Okay. So my opinion has always been, you know, wait a minute. We're sitting here as experiencers in this whole community of people that are already communicating and co-creating with extraterrestrials and multidimensionals in different dimensions and on different planets. And we belong in the Space Force.
But the Space Force as it is not really a functional. It sort of seems like a false kind of service. I mean, I mean, you hear about
they just open right now. They're totally about defense and attack. Yeah, totally.
That's not what we want.
But it doesn't have to be that. That doesn't have to be who we as humans are, how we are represented in space. So we have a responsibility to say, we're not buying as a United States citizen or a European citizen or a Brazilian citizen. We're not buying into the fact that ETs are going to attack us. Right. We're not buying that. We've already communicated and co-created with these ETs, and we're not buying your planetary defense system.
Don't you think it is already operated by the military industrial complex, as Eisenhower said, that it's not up to us? Is there a way we can take back that control from the military? So it's more like what you said, we've already met the others, or I mean, but it seems like it's out of our hands because the military is controlling that. How do we take it back?
Well, I think once again, that's a navigation. I don't think you try to fight the military.
No, I'm not talking about that, but
you're going to lose.
Take it out of the military's mentality, because we're talking about consciousness, to make it part of the exo-awareness,
right?
What it can be.
Well, the only way I came up, because I think about this a lot, and the only way I really came up with was doing something like the Institute, where you have enough, a strong enough community where you're bringing forth these next generation inventions that have to do with space. And mark my word, I've met enough people in space that they're interested in this too. They're interested in consciousness. They don't want everything to be AI. So I think it's up to us to do the work. We have to do the work first. We have to say, this is our intention. This is how we see ourselves as exo-conscious humans. And these are the inventions that we're bringing forth. I mean, Alan, you already know this, but up to now, if you were a very brilliant inventor and had an idea, well, the government just swooped in and swallowed you up.
Right.
And there wasn't any other option for them. You know, they could just drop out. So what we're doing is
what is the option now?
That something like groups like the Institute that say, we're going to get behind you. You're going to have this whole massive group of people behind you, as well as extraterrestrials and multidimensional. When we run our Institute, we don't run it just as humans. We run it as exo-conscious humans, cooperating with extraterrestrials and multidimensionals. And these inventors and entrepreneurs are going to have the same strength behind them.
Great. No, I like this. I think it's important. So yeah, I'd like to introduce you to some people who think along the same way that you do, so we can strategize. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great to say it, but how do we really make contact with the military? I guess Tom DeLonge is doing it in his way, you know, and all those people, and Eric Davis appearing in front of Congress. So there are ways, but I don't think they have the understanding that you have. You know, I mean, from what I've seen.
I speak for them. I don't know.
No, but it seems to me that we all need to be on the same page, because we all really want the same thing, which is an exo awareness of our multidimensional human potential. When we realize our potential, so much more is possible for relating to each other, the world, the earth. It just changes uh, this idea of enslavement to a system that brings the power back into our hands. So that's why I'm very supportive of your
Thank you,
work.
Alan. I really, I thank you. I'm honored by that. Thank you.
Yeah, show your book again. Show,
Oh,
because you're publishing this book,
yeah.
Exo-Humans Claiming Psychic Intelligence in a Transhuman World. This is great. When is this going to be out?
In a few months, I think. It shouldn't take too long. And I'm also going to teach a course. So it's going to be a book and a course.
Great. Okay. And then let's have a meeting if I'm in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just get in touch. Let me know.
Yes, come up to Sedona,
Yeah.
and then I'll bring some people to you that I think could really fit in your
Oh, that'd be
exo
great.
awareness, because I think you're right. It has to start with people who say, I've made contact. It's not, I don't think I did. They're out here. We're
Yeah.
connecting. There are
Yeah.
beings that want to interface with us.
Mhm.
And I mean, just a
And
little.
it's also saying that I am conscious that of the extraterrestrial genetics and being within myself, which is an even deeper piece.
I'm just curious, just briefly, how did you wake up to your exo awareness that this was even happening?
I've been an experiencer since childhood.
Yeah.
So much of my life, it was just this seamless psychic interaction with beings. And I went to star school and I did all the classic things as a child.
Okay.
And then, just went through, different iterations of it. But in around 2004, I was a single mom. I had three of my kids were at home, and I my alarm clock went off. So my little music alarm clock, your radio alarm clock went off, and I kind of hit it. So I would go back to sleep for 5 minutes because I didn't want to
Okay.
get up and pack lunches and get everybody ready for me for work and then for school. And I'll never forget, I put my head down on the pillow, and just as I did that, this word exo-consciousness just literally infiltrated my body. It's kind of like that biblical word became flesh. That word
Beautiful.
became flesh in my body. And I talk about what happened in the book and how that I knew at that point. And interestingly enough, I was part of that Phoenix Lights community too. So, but
Oh,
I never saw the Phoenix Lights.
oh, you didn't. Oh.
And I knew when that happened, that my work was consciousness. My work wasn't craft. Oh, it could be craft consciousness, but my work primarily was going to be consciousness. And so I've just taken it from there. And it's very, we have one member of our institute that's in Brazil that runs a group in Brazil, and he's very active in helping people understand exo-consciousness. And it's just something that we're sharing with the world.
How do I become, or how does me or anyone become a member of your group, the Institute?
You can go to my website, exoconsciousness.com, and just reach out. My email is R for Rebecca, R Hardcastle right at gmail.com. Email me.
I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And
We have a newsletter, and we're just starting small. We're an organic organization. We don't have any big bucks behind us or anything. And we just really wanted to belong to the people and be grassroots. And
well, I think you're
trust
doing
that.
great work. I mean, this is how it starts. And what are you going to be talking about at Portal to Ascension?
I'm going to be talking about exo-conscious humans claiming their psychic intelligence in a transhuman world.
That sounds perfect for you. You know, I'm a lifelong experiencer too, and I've been obsessed with the subject. And I'm coming out with a book this year too.
Oh, congratulations, Alan.
Making
we'll put it in our newsletter.
Yes, it is a collection of essays by me and Linda Moulton Howe and Grant Cameron and a bunch of people. Just talk about that. I got John Mack's archives to give me an unpublished essay.
I love that.
Yes, yeah, that's key. I got Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar in there. So, you know, it's just another, if we keep going out there, but also join forces, I think it makes it more powerful. Like, I love going to Contact in the Desert, where you get 5,000 people together to make a dent in that reality. Have you been there, Contact in the Desert?
Never been.
Oh, well, maybe you should even, I don't know, lecture or something. Let's see how.
All right.
But thank you, Rebecca, for this time. I look forward to seeing you at Portal to Ascension.
Thank you, Alan. You're a dear friend.
Oh, well.
I'm so honored by your support.
Well, we're on the same team, so we're playing. I'm just going to show the Portal to Ascension conference again. I've been talking to Rebecca Hardcastle, the Exo-Conscious Institute. Look for her book coming up, and she'll be speaking here at the Portal to Ascension Conference 2020. This is a free conference, October 1st to the 5th, and just you can go to portaltoascension.org to sign up, or ascensionconference.com, and she'll be joined by lots of extraterrestrial friends. There's Carolyn Corey and Mary Rodwell and Trisha McCannon and Kathleen Martin, who's probably the most connected in a way through Betty Hill, Laura Eisenhower, Dan Winter, Grant Cameron, JJ and Desiree Hurtak. I think we are all coming together at this conference to show that the times, they are changing, and this is the start of a new era. And I think Exo-Consciousness is part of that. I think this is a kind of exo-conscious time. You know, there's modernism, there's postmodernism, now there's exo-consciousness.
There's transhumanism, now there's exo-consciousness.
Yeah, this is the next phase of our collective awakening. So thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Alan.
I'll see you during the conference coming up on Zoom.
Thank you. See you then. Okay. Thanks, Alan.
Alan Steinfeld from New Realities. Thanks for tuning in today. And, you know, come look for some upcoming shows. I have something coming up in about an hour with Celeste Starr, who's going to talk about her ET contact. So stay tuned to the live stream and check out youtube.com/newrealities. Thank you.